I'm not protesting anything here. I'm just holding up a sign. When we were in Skagway, Alaska back in 1970, the sign says we traveled the White Pass Trail. And this is the White Pass Trail from Skagway all the way up to Lake Bennett. We took the train ride. By the way, that passenger car there was actually built in the 1890s. Now here we are at the depot at the White Pass and Yukon Railway. We get on the train. Starts out kind of smooth. Beautiful day. Snow all over the place. We're climbing. That was the most rickety bridge. Well, that wasn't the most rickety bridge. Believe me. A little spoiler alert here. Our train derailed. But I'm not telling you when. You'll see it here coming up. That's looking back into Skagway. So we go we go from Skagway to the Gold Rush Cemetery, up through Denver, it's called Denver, then Rocky Point. Then we eventually get to Glacier Station, and then we'll make our way around Tunnel Mountain. We'll continue to climb to White Pass Summit, which is where British Columbia starts. The border's right there. This bridge is no longer in service. It went out of service in 1969 because it just couldn't handle the weight of the freight. Now you see that sign right there? It says Trail of 98. This is the trail, the White Pass Trail, that the gold diggers, or the gold miners, the Stampede, the Klondike Stampede, this is one of the routes they took to get to the Klondike. And it was very rough. Very rough. A lot of horses died, a lot of pack horses. They loaded them down. They treated the horses terribly. 3,000 horses died in a year. Matter of fact, they have a monument to the horses. And that area is named Dead Horse Gulch. Matter of fact, they call the trail Dead Horse Trail. That's what they used to call it. And then after it was a trail, this rocky trail, well, it became a wagon trail. And then finally, some entrepreneurs put a railroad in there, and that's why we have the White Pass Yukon Railroad. Construction of the railroad began on May 2nd, 1898. Took 2 years to construct, cost over $100,000 per mile. Thousands worked to finish it. It was a 110-mile track all the way to Whitehorse, Yukon Territory in Canada. They finished in 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days. Finished it on July 29, 1900. This is Bridal Veil Falls. Incidentally, these are home movies my dad took. The camera's shaking so much because the train is shaking. By the way, the train is a narrow gauge train as opposed to a standard gauge train. This narrow gauge train is between the rails 3.5 feet. Standard gauge is 4 feet 8.5 inches. So when we arrived at Bennett Lake, the depot gave us a nice hot meal before we got back on the train heading back into Skagway. Now here's the old church. It's not used anymore. The old church at Bennett Lake. As I recall now, what happens is there's a little like turnaround where the engine that's going north can now go along on this other track, then back up into what was the rear of the train, and now it will take us back. And you'll see how they couple the train right here. Now, can you imagine the horses going over this terrain? Brutal. They call this the new bridge. We recall the old bridge when we were on our way to Bennett Lake. This is the one that's out of service now since 1969. So this is Dead Horse Gulch, and that is the monument they have in tribute to the dead horses that died from mistreatment. Look at these tracks. Can't believe we were on these tracks. They don't look too stable. And guess what? They weren't. That bridge was so scary to go over. It looked like some of the timbers had been burned. But we continued on our way back, and that's Bridal Veil Fall there. Looking back into Skagway on our way down. Now suddenly things started to shake. Everything came to a halt. We went outside to look, and you won't believe this. Our train derailed. All those cars that were full of freight, all of them derailed. I don't know how long we had to wait to get taken back. What they did was the engine went on to the station, to the depot in Skagway. They came back with a flat car, and we all got on a flat car. Here we are making our way to the flat car. Everyone was so scared. There were no sides on that flat car to protect us. We were so squished in. There I am trying to ride the train, but it was too heavy for me and no one wanted to help. So we not only traveled the White Pass Trail, but we survived the White Pass Trail. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. It's free. Thanks. Incidentally, before I got on the flat car, I asked the conductor what they do with the train now. The train that derailed. He said, well, we just push it over the side. Can believe it.